Oh, this is another one of those onion things, isn't it?
No, this is one of those drop it and leave it alone things.
Well, why don't you want to talk about it?
Why do you want to talk about it?
Well, why are you blocking?
I'm not blocking.
Oh, yes, you are.
Donkey, I'm warning you.
Who you trying to keep out? Just tell me that, Shrek. Who?
Everyone, okay?
Oh, now we getting somewhere.
Oh, for the love of Pete.
Hey, what's your problem, Shrek? What you got against the whole world anyway, huh?
Look, I'm not the one with the problem, okay? It's the world that seems to have a problem with me. People take one look at me and go, ah, help, run! A big, stupid, ugly ogre. They judge me before they even know me. That's why I'm better off alone.
Good evening and welcome to Isaac's Productions. That clip you saw in the beginning was a quick scene from one of my favorite childhood movies growing up called Shrek. And just in that minute clip, you can see all the different themes and concepts and just the emotions of the characters that are exaggerated upon in the movie. I didn't just show you that clip because it's one of my favorite childhood movies growing up, but it directly parallels within this book by Mary Shelley called Frankenstein. And this novel doesn't only have the concepts of what we saw in Shrek, but it has other themes such as secrecy, dangerous knowledge, monstrosity, and loneliness. But one of the bigger scenes that I want to capitalize on in this video is the concept of loneliness, of how it is developed and exhibited within the characters of the story.
Why are you following me?
I'll tell you why.
'Cause I'm all alone. There's no one here beside me. My problems have all gone. There's no one to deride me. But you gotta have friends.
Stop singing! Well, it's no wonder you don't have any friends.
Wow. Only a true friend would be that truly honest.
Now, that other scene you saw was also from the movie Shrek, but that was the last Shrek clip from today, I promise. But that scene we saw right there, it was just a little song about being lonely and how pretty much nobody likes to be lonely. Specifically, this is the concept I want to talk about in this video. So this concept made the biggest impression on me than any other theme for two main reasons. For one, this feeling is just relatable, but it's not only relatable to me, it's relatable to every other human being on the planet. And not even just human beings, even animals feel this emotion too. It is a normal feeling that we can all obtain and to be ruled by. And following by this, loneliness is the emotion that the three most pivotal characters in the book, which are Robert Walton, Victor Frankenstein himself, and his monster, they all experience at one point in the story. These three characters are all mere opposites of each other. But they all share this one thing that they suffer from. This shows that no matter who you are or what you are, you can't escape from being lonely. I personally have never really suffered from loneliness like in a severe way, but I have experienced what this feels like, but not to how deep their extent is. Now, before we move on, I just want to share 3 quotes from this story that really emphasize the concept of loneliness within the novel. The first one comes from the monster, as he told, "I looked around, I saw in a herd of none like me. Was I, then, a monster? A blot upon the earth, from which all men fled, and whom all men disowned." This was first said by the monster when he realized that he's going to be looked upon, down upon from society because of his appearance and nothing from the inside. Going back to the first scene of Shrek when he said the same thing. This led him to be lonely, and he carried on by himself until he wanted to find a companion and threatened Victor to do this later on in the story, of course. The next quote comes from Robert Walton, the captain. This quote's from the earlier letters in the story when he was talking to his sister Margaret. I have no one, Margaret. When I am glowing with enthusiasm of success, there will be no one to participate in my joy. If I am assigned by my disappointment, no one will endeavor to sustain me in dejection. Robert Walton was just living out his dream of always sailing and just exploring, but none of the crewmates really bonded with him at all, and he felt lonely on the ship, even though he was surrounded by men all day in a small space. And he longed for a friend, and he found one later in Victor Frankenstein. And the last quote comes from Victor Frankenstein himself, as he says, I am alone and miserable. Man will not associate with me, but one as deformed and horrible as myself would not deny herself to me. Actually, sorry, this quote comes from the monster. This is when he's still explaining his loneliness to Frankenstein, is what I meant. As he said, he's always by himself, but this is the one where he gets the idea of a companion, the bride of Frankenstein, which he threatens Victor to make. Now, I want to talk about a segment where how this concept can benefit your life with a better understanding of what it is and what causes it to somebody's everyday life. So, a greater understanding of the concept of loneliness can benefit an individual, as it can show the reader that this is something anybody can struggle with. No matter who you are or what you are, as I said before, loneliness is an emotion you cannot escape. Also, having this understanding can show you what effect the loneliness can do to someone. As we can see the effects in the story, it is a subliminal message to the reader that we as humans have to aid our peers to not feel this way. For example, when the monster is alienated from society and feels lonely, he just plans to seek revenge and cause terror in Victor's life. And Victor creates a companion for him. Well, that's what he wants, but Victor never really gets to do that for him. He hopes that, in comparison to this, when Victor is lonely, he isolates himself from society until he succeeds at his goal of making life, until he makes the monster. He hopes that this monster can act as a friend to him because he is not feeling any brotherly love from anyone else. Similar to how in the beginning we see in the letters that Robert Walton, he's always surrounded by people but feels no love from anyone else. But once he does find Victor Frankenstein, they instantly click and become buddies. Loneliness is a dangerous emotion that nobody can yield. Well, nobody can evade, but it only yields badly, whether if it's on the individual or if it's on other people. So now we're back to the part of the video where I tell the audience what I found most interesting and challenging in what I studied with this book. So first of all, what I found interesting was the monstrosity motif found in this book to be very interesting and showcased so well. As the monster was a peaceful and harmless being when he was first awakened, he quickly turned into a destructive beast when society oppressed him. And it wasn't good that he was first thought he was a beast when he woke up and saw that his father, Victor, ran away and because of the monster's looks. And then society, they weren't very happy about him either. Everyone was afraid of his appearance and quickly judged him after this. After he became the monster that society labeled him, this displayed that evil from one can root as from the way people act like a monster. If you don't understand, I always hear stories on the news and on radio that cases of when people cause destruction because of their treatment from society or their peers. A prime example I can think of is school shooters. Most of the time, school shooting happens, it's because of the way that student was treated by their peers. It's interesting to me that a book written over 200 years ago, 202 this year, deals with the same problems we do in our society, as we as humans have not changed yet. I would have thought that after 200 years we would have came to more of a realization as a race that, well, the way we treat people has an effect on them no matter what. And that can always shoot back to who people are. And I know courts these days are using that as an excuse for their murderers to serve time or to not serve time, but sometimes it's just insufficient. And another thing I found interesting was the inspiration that Mary Shelley got to write this book. For those who don't know, Mary Shelley was in a friendly competition with fellow authors, including her husband, when she was writing this book. They were challenged to all write the scariest story they could think of. And while she was suffering from writer's block, she had a nightmare one night of an evil scientist creating a demon. And as soon as she woke up in the morning, she went right to work and created a story about this evil scientist called Frankenstein making his monster. I just found it amazing how the inspiration for one of the greatest gothic and sci-fi novels of all time, forever in the human history, just came from a dream. I thought that was just amazing. So before we wrap this video up, I just wanted to tell you my thoughts on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. First and foremost, it was a little lengthy for me that I prefer. It's 240-ish pages, and each 80 pages was split into a volume, so 3 volumes. And I found it a little long and a lot of unnecessary information, or just starts like extra meat of the story that made me really want to sometimes just put it away at night, but I ultimately wanted to know what happened next, which made me keep on reading, which is one thing that I liked about Mary Shelley, is that she always kept me on the edge of my seat while I was reading all of this. And now before I end this video, there's just one more thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about how I actually liked these characters, some of these characters in this story. Unlike other novels, I find some characters to be annoying or just not to my liking, but characters like Willie and not Victor Frankenstein, but Robert Walton to be likable. And I think I found this because it was very relatable to them, like how Robert's pain and loneliness in the beginning made me feel bad for him. But other things like the details around the monster is something I liked. And just the whole story in general is something that I recommend, and I love it. It's a classic. Thank you for watching this video, and have a great evening.